True to Michelle's words, things did get worse for Minjun in the days that followed. With Chairman Kang away on a 2-week business trip to Singapore, Minjun's uncle, Kang Do-hyun, began moving to sway the board of directors and even staff to his side. It started with little things. Documents Minjun needed arrived late, and department heads hesitated when he gave instructions. He thought nothing of it at first, but it became too frequent to be a coincidence. Rumors spread through the company, and Minjun noticed how employees stared and whispered as he walked past. Every meeting that involved his uncle felt like walking into the lion's den. Certain heads of subsidiaries and departments always had a reason they couldn't move forward with his plans. Kang Do-hyun, on the other hand, seemed to be thriving. Employees laughed a little harder at his jokes and bowed a little lower when greeting him. As Do-hyun gathered allies ahead of the upcoming board meeting, none of the board members took Minjun's calls. For the first time in his life, Minjun wondered if the company was better off without him. He had spent his whole life in his father's shadow, watching his every move and trying to prove himself worthy of succeeding Chairman Kang, and now it was all slipping through his hands. Amid all this, home became his only source of relief. Drained as he was each evening, the moment he stepped through the doors of his penthouse, the weight on his shoulders felt a little lighter. Slowly, without him realizing it, he began to associate the very thought of home with Michelle. She had become a warm, irreplaceable presence in his life. That night, as he walked down the hallway, he was drawn by the sound of Michelle singing softly as she worked in her studio. Reaching the door, he was greeted by the smell of turpentine and oil paints mingled with the faint scent of the candles she loved to light around the house. Minjun lingered at the slightly open door, watching the way her fingers traced the canvas, steady and sure, despite her unseeing eyes. He knocked softly, and her singing stopped. "I thought you were going to stand there forever," she said, chuckling. Minjun flushed, embarrassed to be caught. Of course her hearing and sense of smell were sharp. "How was work?" Michelle asked, wiping paint from her hands. "Don't get me started," Minjun groaned, sinking onto the couch beside her. "Work always follows you home like a storm cloud. You should teach it some manners," Michelle said with a faint smile, earning a tired laugh from him. As he recounted the events of his day, Michelle listened attentively. He watched her as he spoke, noticing how her facial expressions changed, the way she tilted her head when she was curious, or nodded gently when she agreed with him. Minjun was absolutely lost in her beauty. If he could, he would write 1,000 sonnets about her. He blinked, pushing away these sappy thoughts that were so unlike him. "It sounds like everything is going according to your uncle's plan," Michelle said when he finished. "He must have been preparing this for a while. But remember, you worked hard to earn your place in the group. He's just trying to throw you off balance and make you panic. The other board members are probably watching to see how you handle it before picking a side." Her words gave Minjun clarity. For the first time in weeks, he didn't feel like he was drowning. He needed to show his uncle he wasn't afraid of a challenge. He had worked too hard to let anyone take his dream from him. "How do you always know the right thing to say?" he asked, watching her with wonder. "I guess I just listen," Michelle replied with a light shrug. It was one of the important skills she had learned from both her parents. Thinking of her family, she smiled sadly. Noticing her sad smile, Minjun moved closer, taking her hand and pressing a kiss to her fingers, which startled her. He kept her hand in his, brushing his thumb over it tenderly until she relaxed. "What's on your mind?" he asked. "I'd like to go visit my family soon." "I miss them," Michelle replied. They visited occasionally, but things had gotten busy recently, and she hadn't seen them in almost 2 weeks. She missed the days when they lived under the same roof and could see each other whenever they wanted. "Would you like me to come with you?" Minjun asked, a little nervous. He knew her brother still didn't fully approve of him, but he suddenly wanted to know everything about Michelle, including how she interacted with her family. The question surprised her. She hadn't expected him to want to go, but the idea made her happy. She wanted her family to like him as she had come to like and respect him. "Yes. Do you have time this weekend?" she asked cheerfully. "I'll make time," Minjun said, standing to place a kiss on her forehead before slipping out of the studio. Michelle was stunned by the sudden display of affection. What was with Minjun today? The Yaya family dinners were always warm and full of laughter, and the day they visited was no different. The couple arrived at the family's large home just outside the city and were greeted by Michelle's mother at the door. Rosalind welcomed them warmly, drawing her daughter into a gentle hug before turning to Minjun, who bowed politely. "You're family now. No need for all that," Rosalind said, pulling him into a warm hug that made him smile brightly. Inside, Michelle's brothers, John and Kima, were already waiting. They each hugged their sister and shook Minjun's hand, with what seemed to be genuine smiles. Michelle must have put in a good word for him. "Good to see again, Mr. Kang," John said. "Please, we're family." "Call me Minjun," he replied, glancing around nervously. John nodded, and Michelle smiled in his direction. As they sat to eat, Michelle chatted happily with her mother and brothers. Minjun found himself fitting in with John and Kima as they talked about work and the struggles of running a company. John shared stories about recent construction projects, and Kima teased Michelle about how she used to boss him around when they were younger, even though he was a year older than her. When the table was cleared, Michelle wandered off with Kima while the others sat in the living room. "Is it all right if I ask for your input on some official matters?" Minjun asked, drawing their attention. Rosalind and John exchanged a look, then nodded. Minjun hesitated. He wasn't used to asking anyone for help, not even his own family, but he felt strangely comfortable with the Yayas and trusted their judgment. "I know this is unusual," he said, fidgeting with his fingers, "but I don't have much of a choice except to rely on the people around me." He recounted everything that had happened with his uncle and explained how he had wanted to impress his father by handling it himself, but he was finding it extremely difficult. When he finished, silence settled before Rosalind spoke with measured calm. "You remind me of your father when he was about your age. Ambitious, determined, and, like him, you spend more time thinking about asking for help than actually asking." Her words stung, but they were true. Minjun bowed his head slightly and listened. "So, you need allies, but you don't know how to gain their trust on your own?" Rosalind asked. When Minjun nodded, she continued, "When your father suggested this union, he predicted this would happen. In fact, it's part of why he proposed it. Of course, I wouldn't have agreed if I hadn't believed you two were a good match." Minjun wasn't surprised by his father's ability to prepare for the rainiest of days, but he didn't yet see how it connected to his marriage to Michelle. Rosalind explained that her late husband had lived in the Kang household throughout his teenage and early adult years, essentially growing up alongside Chairman Kang. Minjun's grandfather had taken him in and treated him like a son after his parents, close business associates of the elder Kang, tragically passed away. Mr. Yaya had remained close to Minjun's grandfather until he moved away to start his own business. That bond led to Rosalind's husband being included in the elder Kang's will, inheriting 8% of the Kang Group, making the Yaya family a major shareholder. The shares were split evenly between Mr. Yaya and Rosalind, and because each portion was just under 5%, they were not required to disclose them publicly. After Mr. Yaya's passing, Rosalind transferred his shares to Michelle. Only Rosalind and John were aware of this. The revelation stunned Minjun. He'd known about the secret shareholders, but his father had dismissed it any time he had asked about them, and the information was hidden well, accessible only to Chairman Kang and his closest allies. "With our family by your side, you have a strong chance of becoming chairman," John said, speaking for the first time since dinner ended. "We're not on the board of directors, so we can't vote, But our support should be enough to pull some votes, since the board members will want to be on our good side for future shareholders' meetings. We also have a good relationship with some of them. I can arrange a meeting, but you'll need to do the rest. Of course, you'll also need Michelle's support. Minjun couldn't believe how readily they were offering solutions to problems that had cost him so much sleep. Burying his head in his hands, he wondered how many issues he had struggled through that could have been eased simply by asking for advice. Michelle returned then and sat next to him. "You definitely have my support," she said softly to him. She must have heard a fair amount of the conversation. Would she think he was just using her? Although he had only married her out of obligation at first, he had since dismissed the idea of parting ways with her and didn't want her to think his change of heart was because of her shares. He had to wait till this was over to tell her how he felt. Then she would know he wasn't doing it for the votes. Soon after, they said their goodbyes. Minjun thanked Rosalind and her sons for the meal and their advice, promising to stay in touch. That day, he gained a deep respect for Michelle's family. Although he didn't appreciate that Chairman Kang had kept all this from him, he was grateful he hadn't gone against his father's wishes. Their marriage had given him the two things he needed most: a companion he had fallen hopelessly in love with, and people he could trust.